teaching kids grit and not hitting the snooze button on life in general, just because I think that's probably the single-handed love and grit are the two most important things you can teach your children, I think. And grit's one of those things that if you're 30 years old, I don't know how you teach a 30-year-old grit, you know what I mean? Put their back against the wall. But like really, you learn that through life and want to win at sports or whatever your thing is, grit will get you through life.
Need a partner who sees the big picture? Forza Management. We're not just property managers, we're strategic partners. Navigating the complex world of commercial real estate can be daunting. That's where Forza Management comes in. Forza Management provides services in the mountain and desert states and covers all types of asset classes, including retail, industrial, and office. Our team of experts delivers exceptional property management services, namely property maintenance, lease administration, and annual CAM reconciliations. When looking at your next property, check out our website at forzacommercial.com. Forza Management, maximizing your investment and minimizing your stress.
All right, welcome back to the Dirt Dog Pod. Today we have Matt Smith, founder and CEO for Snooze Sleep. Matt, thanks for joining us on the pod.
I'm fired up. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Yeah. You are a legend in the sleep industry, right? And
I don't know if I'd call it a legend, but I've been in the sleep game for a long time, 25 years.
25 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about that. Where did you start? Did you start hawking mattresses in college or like high school at 25 years, man?
Yeah, it was right in between. It was actually right when I was going into college. I was 19 years old. I was selling cell phones in a Walmart kiosk and got recruited into the mattress business. And raised by a single mom, I never really saw money until I got my first mattress commission check. And I thought I was the richest kid at 19 years old on planet Earth, so the rest is history. So I got in at 19 and been in it for 25 years now.
Okay. So Pueblo, Colorado, Walmart.
Yeah.
And you're slinging cell phones at age 19.
Selling cell phones. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you moved over. And which mattress company was it? Where'd you get your first commission?
A company called Denver Mattress Company. I actually worked for them for 18 years, helping them grow around the country from, they had 10 stores when I started, about 110 when I left. And, got in the franchise game at 25. And, I think ultimately, long story short, I was, saw the mattress side of it, enjoyed that, started buying real estate at 20, 21, trying to figure out the money game, and then at 25, 2007-ish, the economy kind of tanked and, bought a franchise. And then I learned the franchise business for the last 20 years. I've learned the mattress business for 25 years and really saw the best and the worst in both. And Snooze was born to help disrupt both of those industries and change the game of sleep and health and change the game of franchising. So that's where we're at and that's where we're going.
So I don't know about a lot of the people that might be listening to this, but I look back at, Chris Hatch when he was 20 and I didn't know where I was going in life per se. Right.
Right.
And by 25, I had figured out that I like brokerage and I was doing commercial real estate brokerage. And I was like, okay, this retail hustle's something. How do you come from a single parent household and then just boom? And then all of a sudden you're just driven and like in a pipeline. Who was your mentor?
I think I think it was just the fact that, the story really is like, I didn't have a father, I didn't know him for 20 years and we had no money. We were broke all the time. So I swore that I was going to figure those two things out. I was going to overcompensate for being the best father I could ever be in life. And I wanted to figure out this money thing, and I think growing up, I read books, I watched things and, I watched my mom struggle financially, not having the money. And I just swore, I think I was selling bubble gum out of my locker at 13 years old and 14 years old and had a paper out at 12 and, and then kept just kind of climbing to Discount Tire. I did so many different things. And by 19, before I even got in the mattress game, but I was determined to learn it. And then when I started making money, I was determined to figure out how to make that money work for me because I'd read so many books on that instead of trying to be like, oh, let's go buy a car and this. I was like, I'm going to tuck this in and buy some real estate. My mom never owned a house. And at 19, I bought a house. It was just cool to be able to see that. But, my mom, what she never had money, she'd absolutely made up with in love, so I wouldn't change any of it for the world. But I think I just was driven to figure it out. And I built that muscle in Pueblo alone. I think I've owned 9 businesses here, maybe 10, in everything from tuxedos to carpet cleaning to spas to gyms to all kinds of stuff. But I was that idiot that was like, oh, I'll try that. There's a gap there. I'm going to go try this. I'm going to build this muscle. But I was selling mattresses by day while I was doing all this other stuff on the side. So I think they grit, just want to figure it out.
Yeah, I love every second of that. So you're true first gen.
Yeah. First gen,
Yeah.
100% true. True and true.
Yeah, good for you. I like to say I got a long ways by standing on the shoulders of a lot of people before me.
There you
Yeah.
go.
But you can't teach grit, right? That's the amazing thing. You know what I mean? He's got to come from somewhere.
No, and it's true. I just actually finished. I'm about to launch a children's book. I could even show it here in a second, but it's called "Don't Hit the Snooze Button." It's a children's book, and the whole book, the premises is, teaching kids grit and not hitting the snooze button and on life in general. Just because I think that's probably the single-handed love and grit are the two most important things you can teach your children. I think, and grit's one of those things that if you're 30 years old, I don't know how you teach a 30-year-old grit. You know what I mean? Put their back against the wall, but like really, you learn that through life and want to win at sports or whatever your thing is. Grit will get you through life,
I was getting our household up last week, like Wednesday morning or something, and it came to my realization that my oldest two teenagers were both up before 6 a.m. And then I had my next two kids at age 12 and age 9, also getting up pre 6:30. And I was like, there's just something to that, right? If kids are getting themselves up at that time of day, I don't think we're going to need to spend a whole lot of time trying to teach these kids how to work hard when they grow into adults.
100%. No, you're right. And it's hard, and the newer generations too, there's a lot more video games. There's a lot more things out there. So it's like, we've got to make sure there is that. Put in the work. You put in the work, life's going to be a lot easier and a lot more fun. You're not going to blame everybody. Take responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're with the Denver Mattress Company for 19 years?
18.
18. You did, and they got up to about 110 locations on exit. And then from there, did you decide you wanted to start something on your own on the Snooze side, or how did Snooze come to be?
Yeah. So, I mean, essentially I was building a largest gym, I think, in the system with Snap Fitness in Pueblo West. And I was still working by day. And my first kid was about to turn 2. And I committed to my wife. I was like, when it matters to our kids, I'll retire from this retail schedule and I'll do it on our own. And I think somewhere around 2 to 3 years old, my daughter was being born. My son was born. So they're a year apart or 13 months apart. So it was that was the moment that I'm like, okay, this is the moment. I'm going to go bet on myself. I owned a bunch of businesses at the time, and, they were all working ish, but I was building somebody else's business. And it was, I was at that point. So walked away, bet on the gym side of it. And it didn't take me very long to go, all right, I miss the mattress game and the sleep game. And if there's anything that I can say that I probably would go toe to toe with anybody in the industry, would be mattresses and sleep and health. And so I was born probably 6 months. A building came for sale right next to my gym. And I was like, all right, God's telling me something. This is the moment. So, and I had my realtor go over there and said, go see what somebody's talking about over there. And there was like, somebody wanted to put a mattress store here. I was like, oh no, they're not on my turf. So I bought the building within a couple of days, and rest is history, and got back into it, called the Denver Mattress guys, let them know what we were doing. And kind of combine the models of franchising and sleep and health.
I love it. And then, so as you go into mattresses, did you already know manufacturers? I mean, it's not like you just go buy that off the shelf, right?
Yeah. I mean, I had a good relationship with some, but this was a new muscle. I didn't understand this side of the business. Tempur-Pedic is probably the biggest out there. And they were one that I was like, man, I just hope I can get those guys. If I can get those guys, I'm going to figure this all out, because I sold a lot of them and I was a big believer in them. And I'll never forget, when they came out and they met me and they were like, man, we wouldn't normally go into this location and this demographics, but because of your history, we'll let you go ahead and do it. And we blew every number they ever thought was possible out the water. And they were like, all right, go wherever you want to go. We trust you. Your system works. You're different than the rest. And it was, so at that point, we just build relationships. It does take a while to learn the other side of the business. I think when you're in the sales side and the management side, and then you have to go back to the other side, it's a whole different game, learning all the ordering and financials and all that side of it. But it's been a blast.
Yeah. And when did you open that location? How long ago was that?
2019, Black Friday.
There you go.
That store was open about 2 years. And then we started franchising right around COVID. In the COVID era is when we started franchising. So we've been franchising about 3 years.
And what's it like to move from running your own stores to going into the franchise model? Because obviously that's different.
Oh, it's night and day. Yeah, it's a blessing, but it's there's a lot. It's a big difference when you're now in the people business and the helping other people grow business, and you're out of the mattress business. And it's been a blessing. think we've got just the most incredible franchisees, but I had a lot to learn. I think now my absolute 3 non-negotiables that we had to learn through the process is you got to be a good human. Like, I'm only going to do business with good people. We're blessed to not, if I don't care how much money you got, if you're not good people, we don't do business with, 2, you got to have grit, as we just talked about. Like, without grit, this isn't going to work. I'll give you the best system and processes. Everybody sleeps. There's a lot of money to be made in the mattress game, but you got to put in the work, and 3 is just coachable. If you follow the systems and processes on a daily basis, you're going to make money and you're going to have fun and change a lot of lives. But if you don't, just like anything, but I always tell everybody else, like, we're as coachable as it gets too, Chris. If you got a better idea than what we're doing right now, I'll change it tomorrow. That's the way we disrupt an industry, is by doing what Tesla did and Nike did and Facebook did, not what another mattress store did and got good at it. Like, we need to bring in other industries. And that's really where health and wellness is coming in. We're the first of our kind.
And where do you find, so given those qualities that you just rattled off, what is the typical, where are you finding the franchisees? Are they typically operators of other businesses? Are they new to the business side of the franchise side of things? Or,
I think the grit part of it is definitely, we've learned, they've in other businesses, our guys in North Carolina are one of the top Jimmy John's performers. They got 25 Jimmy John's, 24 Jimmy John's. Our guys, in Dallas, we've got, different parts of Texas. This guy owns Domino's pizzas all over the country. Got one of the top osteo-strungs guy in Missouri. So people that have got some kind of a proven history, because the reality of franchising, and why I say we're disrupting franchising, is when you get into franchising, most of the franchises are a lot of fast food, low margins, high employees. You get 30, 40 employees in one of these stores and you're making 3 to 5% if you're doing good. It's a lot of work, and your owners get stuck working in the business versus on the business because they're just turnover and all this different chaos inside of there. Where with us, you got 2 people, they're wearing pajamas, they're changing people's lives every day for a living, they're having fun, they're commission based, they can make some good money, and they're scaling. And the reality is everybody sleeps. They don't all go to a gym. They might not like sandwiches, they might like pizza, but they all sleep. So it really is, how hard do you want to work? And with the evolution of where we're at, it's now health and wellness. We're doing ice baths with Gary Brecka. We'll be the first to do in-home sleep apnea tests in the store. We custom fit you, through technology trusted by the Mayo Clinic to find out what kind of a mattress that your body needs. So the whole thing is a sleep journey. It's not a mattress store. And sometimes it's compression sleeves, or it's melatonin, or it might be something that's not even a mattress that's going to help you sleep at night. And that's our mission, is how do we bring all this technology into a sleep shop and help you sleep better? Because it's an underrated thing in this world. Everybody's got to sleep, and it affects everything we do.
We're 19 years into our marriage at my household. And so we just recently upgraded a whole bunch of mattresses. And I can tell you, after going through the retailing side, honestly, if your sales folks and your franchisees are even just paying attention to the customer, you're like probably a couple levels ahead of all the competitors.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, this industry's not always known for being the best at customer service. It is. And that's what I saw. I was on the front line forever, and it really is. Hey, Chris, what's your price point? What size do you want? What do you feel? And okay, there's this one or this one. Which one works best for you, Chris? I'll try it out. Hopefully it works out. If not, let me know and I can exchange it. Like, that's the industry. And for us, it's like, Chris, I'm gonna take you on a sleep journey. We do things differently, not just wear pajamas like these over here. We're gonna take you on a journey and find out what your body needs and talk about your sleep needs. And then we'll talk about the other side of it. So it's a completely different experience than anybody else has ever had. And we're very proud. It's fun. It's working.
Yeah, that's fun. Okay, so as I announced to LinkedIn and Twitter and everywhere in the office here, who I had coming on as my guest today, I had a lot of people respond to me and just say, "What is the deal? Why are there so many mattress stores? And they're on the hard corners, right? How can they afford these rents, right? Like, what is going on?" A lot of speculation about it being drug fronts, all kinds of wild things out there.
100%.
So just help us understand. So it's a high margin business. You've mentioned that.
Yeah.
Low employees. And so just that allows you, and you basically have to have that space as your billboard, or what's the thought process behind having that A+ real estate?
Yeah, it's a combination of everything. If you zip the back of the king size mattresses, it's full of cocaine and meth and all that. We make sure that we hide that stuff really well when we're taking it across.
Good.
But that is what everybody thinks, for the record. Everybody says that.
Don't post your home address here, okay? We don't need any FBI knocking your door down. We're just joking.
They won't find anything. It's okay. I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Yes.
But no, really, like, it's a high margin industry, and everybody does sleep. So it really, like, when you look at a mattress store, one customer a day at $27.39, you're $1 million store. 2 customers a day at that, you're a $2 million store, and so on and so forth. And you do have high margins in the industry. And, A plus locations make a difference. I think when you look at a normal mattress store and Snooze, is we're a sleep shop, and we're really the only sleep shop that does a lot more than just what they do in a normal typical mattress store. But that is why you don't need a lot of employees. You don't have a lot of cars, because even if you have a customer, there's only one car. If there's two customers, two cars. Where in a restaurant, you got 50 cars out there. That's why landlords love us, is because we don't take a lot of parking spots. But it can be a lucrative business, and it doesn't take a lot of people to do it, for sure.
So I would assume more people buy mattresses probably on the weekends than they do during weekdays. And so what's a count you're trying to hit on a Saturday if I'm running a store in a good location? How many mattresses am I trying to move on a Saturday?
It depends on, how long you've been in the business. It depends on where your location is. There's a lot of stuff there, but again, on a good Saturday or Sunday, if these stores are getting 5 customers plus, they're doing well. 5, 10 customers, you're crushing it. It's not like you don't need a lot. 3 customers, you can do very well. 5 customers, you can do very, very well. So, and it does, like some stores that are in areas that, A plus locations, they're naturally getting 5, 10 stores or customers, and then some you got to advertise and grow it and get the customer to know who you are, community to know who you are. And that's kind of one of our cheat codes, is we are not only the only sleep shop in your community, but we're the only sleep shop normally that is, that you're getting the buying power of a corporate, but you have a local owner there. Like, it's a franchise. So the money stays in that community. We have a better warranty, better price, better system, better process. Everything is different, but your money stays there too. There's a local owner that's fighting for that to help change lives.
We've had a handful of guests on your episode 16 on the Dirt Dog Pod, and we've had quite a few people on that are responsible for opening 50 to 100 stores a year. But I don't think we've ever had anybody on with as high of a growth rate as you're sitting at. How many stores are you sitting at today?
We're about 15, I think, as of this moment.
And then what are you anticipating by year end in 2025?
I think, if all goes well, I think we're opening 9, 8 between this month and next month, but we have, some acquisitions, some other things happening. We're thinking between 75 and 100 by the end of the year.
Well, it's wild growth pace, right? Just tremendous. Okay. So how do you pick a good location? What do you do?
AJ, the guy introduced you to us. He's one of the best in the world, but really just finding a high traffic, good corner area that we look at demographics too. We're not a company that wants to chase to the bottom. So we're not looking for an area that's $299 queen size customer. We do want something that's, people that will invest in their sleep and overall health. So nowadays it's such a cheat code. When I was back in my days 20 years ago opening stores, it's just throwing a dart. It's available. Let's make it work. Nowadays there's so much data and AI and so many different things to find out competitive nature, what's going on, growth rates, all that side of it. So there's a lot of data. But that's probably the biggest challenge we have is, we won't open just to open. We could have opened, probably a lot more stores right now if we were just letting people open to open. But, we want to make sure the location makes sense for a 5, 10, 20 years process.
So when you look at that, is it, and let's go back to Anthony Johnson for a minute, Pegasus out of New Mexico. We both owe him $5 and a Snickers for connecting us. So thank you, Anthony.
Thanks, AJ. Big shout out. Guy's amazing. And he's always got the clothes. He's got style, man. Guy's always got the glasses that match the shirt. But yeah, he's an incredible guy and he knows his stuff. There is nobody that fights harder and that truly is as passionate about finding the right real estate for the right people, for sure.
So when you look at that location and you're trying to determine if it's going to be good in 5 or 10 or 15 years, are you looking primarily just at the streets and how the traffic's flowing? Are you looking at co-tenancy? What is it? What are some of the kickers that kind of say, hey, look, this one's going to be better than that one?
Yeah, both. Co-tenancy is a big one. Who is there retail tenancies? Are people spending money in this territory, in this area? There's a difference in traffic and our traffic. There's Big Lots traffic that, might not complement us as well, or dollar store traffic that's not going to necessarily complement us. But then there's, higher end traffic, Lululemon kind of traffic, or people that, there's people that are out there spending the money and the energy. And then there's also new communities when places are growing, to get in there first. And right now, this year, the industry's in an all-time chaotic time right now. So it's also been a cheat code for us to be able to move into maybe mom and pops locations that can convert, because they don't know what they don't know. There's mom and pops places that are still handwriting invoices for the last 20, 30 years. They're making money and they don't have the buying power. They've never tried. They've never gotten all the stuff that they can do. So to convert somebody from us to a Snooze Now it's not them against the world. They have a huge team. They've got a buying power. They got somebody at every aspect to help them grow. It changes the whole entire thing. So we're looking at a lot of that stuff to, to get to those numbers a little bit faster, because if we were trying to open 75 stores in 75 brand new locations today, it'd be real tough, because of just the locations take, sometimes it takes 3 months for a landlord to reach you back. It's crazy out there. But so anyway, so yeah, hopefully that helps. But yeah, I mean, nowadays there's so much cheating out there, but if I can get, or if somebody's pulling back and they're in an A+ location, we can go right into that store. If there was another mattress store that's pulling back some numbers right now.
We're sitting in the middle of tariff mania still, and let's hope that this is a flash in the pan, and hopefully even by the time this pod goes out, everything settles. That's my hope every day, though. How do you see the tariffs impacting things from a mattress standpoint?
I think it's more of the buyer's confidence than anything. I will tell you, from the mattress industry 8 years ago, and when Trump was in, there was tariffs heavily hit our industry. When you had like Ashley Home Furniture, some of the biggest players were all made overseas. And when the tariffs started back then, Ashley's, I think, majority of their beds, I mean, almost 100% of their furniture and mattresses are now made here. I can't say 100%, but the majority of what we do is all made in the United States now. And that's just them as an example. But there's a lot that was forced to come here because of the two administrations ago, back then when those tariffs hit. So we're very proud. Our stores, all the mattresses 100% are made in America. So it's not going to affect us on that side of it. There's a few bases and a few things that do come from overseas that's all kind of getting exchanged and changed. But otherwise, yeah, we are very blessed, and I don't think it's going to affect us in this industry, but it is definitely affecting the buyer's confidence. There's different parts of the country that it's affecting more than others, for sure.
You mentioned as we were getting going here on the call today that you guys are also looking at some international expansion.
Yeah, I was in Ireland for spring break 3 weeks ago with my family, and we just opened our first store internationally. So we've opened Ireland. We're working on our second, third in Ireland. We're working on 3 in London, UK. So we're going to be hitting it hard up that area. We've got interest in Canada and Saudi Arabia. I mean, I could keep going. El Salvador. There's a lot of different areas that we have got a lot of interest. So we're nurturing people from all over the world, just making sure we do it right. I mean, it's not a lack of growing 1,000 stores. It's just doing it the right way and finding the right people to do it with. So when we go out to other countries, if anybody is listening to this and looking, we'd be looking for like a master franchise where somebody would own that and develop that. So there is some boots on the ground. We'll compliment and help you any way you can. And that store in Ireland crushed it the first month they were open. It's different. I think that from a United States, Snooze is doing something that has never been done before. But you look at somewhere like Ireland, they're already like 40 years behind, 30 years behind the United States on their, they're sleeping, their mattress sales, and they don't even have an adjustable base under there. It was really weird for me to do, demos and get people out there because they don't even know what a base is. They don't know what Tempur-Pedic is. I'm like, okay, this is going to be fun. It's so different. But I think every culture is a little bit different on what they think about sleep. But reality is, I've told all their salespeople there and all their vendors, because some of the vendors tried to talk me out of it. I'm like, they all got put on underwear every morning and socks, and they're the same humans as we are. They all need a good night's sleep, but they just don't know it yet because they're just used to walking in the store, seeing prices, and I'll just take that one, So it's going to take a little bit of time to really help them understand, but it's definitely working out there, and I think it'll be a bigger opportunity out there for sure.
It is interesting when you're touring through Europe. It's not uncommon, obviously, to see a lot of American brands in some of the tourist areas. But you don't see really any of our national mattress competitors there, right? Are any of them competing overseas, or is this a whole new kind of blue ocean kind of for you out there and trying to
100% blue ocean? We are the only people to ever leave the United States. I mean, even the big ones haven't even gotten to Mexico or Canada. So we're the first, and that's all right. That's how I like it that way.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, that's fun. Wild growth rate and how fun that is. But you're a guy who dabbles in a lot of things, right? So tell us about some of the other things what's keeping you busy these days, besides the, just adding a casual 80 stores a year or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I think, what's keeping us busy is that. I mean, we just got a lot going on. We're very blessed for the growth, but just doing it wisely and doing it right with the right people. Our team I'm the dumbest guy by far on the team, the Snooze team here. We've been blessed with hundreds of years of experience in franchising and mattresses. But I think, I just wrote a couple books, just put out my other children's book that's just about to launch. Donate the Snooze button. I think, we're launching, if anybody knows Gary Brecka, we're working with Gary Brecka on ice baths. So we're launching those in the stores as of this weekend. And then we got some other top secret stuff that Gary and myself and Sage are working on that'll be awesome, that I think will really help the health and wellness industry. So yeah, I mean, my main focus is this. I still own a gym and some other businesses, but I've sold everything to really all hands on making this thing grow and explode. And, we say it on every call, 20 million people sleeping better because of Snooze nationally and 50 million people globally. And that is really our mission. How do we elevate the industry to talk more about sleep and health? How do we change the conversation from a mattress to sleep and overall health? And it's an undertaking, but we're up for the challenge. And I think that's always our mission. And I think that if I learned anything, and it sounds like you're a serial guy too, that has a lot of business experience and seen a lot of stuff. If I learned anything when I owned 9 business, maybe 7 at the same time, I wasn't great at anything. I was good at some stuff, but I could never, you're never going to dominate. So it's like, if I don't focus 100% of my efforts on Snooze, it's not going to be where it needs to be. So it really is our undivided attention.
Selling ice baths in the retail showroom of an environment of mattresses makes a ton of sense, right? Because especially with your wellness angle. So have you been doing the ice baths for a while?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, so I met Grant Cardone. I was on a show called Undercover Billionaire here in Pueblo for 90 days. Through him, I met Gary Brecka, and Gary was a speaker. Long story short, I have a captain's license. We were out in the British Virgin Islands, and he was a speaker for us. And we had a little event, I guess you'd call it. He got me onto Richard Branson's island. He's like, Matt, I surprised you. I got you onto Branson's island. I was like, what? Because he's like a hero. And then the first morning we wake up, Gary goes, hey, you want to go do an ice bath and some Wim Hof breathing? And I was like, what does that even mean? And changed my life. Literally from that day forward, I have taken an ice bath every day. The mental side of it, it absolutely, I believe in it. And I've sold a lot of them to just people that see the help and wellness from what it's done. And if you think about sleep, there's, starting in the morning, that's your cup of coffee, or like Sage Brecka, she does it at night before she goes to bed. So she's not sore and she sleeps better at night. But there's so much more to sleep than just a mattress, and I think that's been our mission. And I love that you say that you see it, because a lot of people are like, why would you put an ice bath inside of a mattress store or sleep shop? Like, because it's health and wellness. We're doing high press. We're doing a lot of things that will help people sleep and feel better that might not have to do with the mattress. So I'm a believer. Have you ever taken an ice bath?
I've done the ice bath. I haven't made a habit of it though, but who knows? Maybe I just need to drop by one of your stores and get one of the baths.
I'm telling you, you will be able to get them. We have this Cold Life. It's this Ultimate Human powered by Snooze ice bath that we're launching right now, but it's a sit down and you can do the breathing inside of it. But I mean, there's health benefits, there's adrenaline rush, there's, endorphin spike. There's so many things, but then beyond that, from an entrepreneur standpoint, I think is probably my favorite. And Tony Robbins says it best. He's like, it's me telling my brain every day that I'm in control and this is going to be the hardest part of the day. And it's so real, because I've taken 400 ice baths and they still flipping suck, Chris. Like, they don't get better. You don't just go, oh, I'm used to this cold water. Every day, it's just like, oh, like you just lose your breath. You feel like that flight for life. It doesn't get easier, but it is the hardest part of my day every day. But I feel like $1 million when I get out. I'm like, all right, let's go day. So I highly recommend it. Good bed, good ice bath.
I mean, for the most part, most of the customers, I assume, walking into a Snooze location already own a mattress. Is that a correct statement?
Probably. I mean, I would say, yeah, that's probably correct. People are looking, or unless they're moving, but yes.
But usually they have something they're upgrading, right? But to me, they're there for a better experience, right? And back to your point, you're selling good sleep, right? So why not cross-sell a product that can also help with that? And I think that's one of the most interesting things to think about, is like, it's very difficult to come up with other products that are a good cross-sell, because, what are you going to do? Sell maybe a pillow, right? You're not really there for sheets. You're not there for other things. I mean, you're there for an experience, right?
Yeah. No, and you're there, and really the customers coming in, and even when I was at my previous job, I mean, they're coming in and they're just, I'm in pain. I can't sleep. I don't care. Help. Like, what do I need to do? And, and I think too many stores are just, here's a bed, try this one, try this one. Okay, we helped. Like, no, that's not helping. Like, what's your why? How do I help you find, because if you're a dad, you need more energy for your kids. If you're an entrepreneur, you need more energy to focus. If you're an athlete, you need to jump higher and run faster. All sleep affects all of that, So it really is, what are you doing to understand the sleep and health? And there's so much technology, from like these Oura rings to a lot, to sound of the room, smell of the room, darkness of the room, so many different things that'll help you sleep at night if you really made it a priority. That adds life and years and diseases, and there's a lot to it. So it's definitely been our passion. That experience.
All right. So how did you end up on Undercover Billionaire? What's that like?
Yeah, it's if you guys, I think it's on Hulu, Discovery Plus. I mean, that's probably everywhere at this point. But it was so Grant Cardone. Long story short, was dropped off in Pueblo, Colorado. It was a beat up town. Down and Out was the story that they told me, and they guy named I'm trying to think of the producers. Anyway, there was a couple different producers and stuff that came through the town, and then they introduced me to Grant Cardone, which he had an alias name coming into this, but Grant Cardone was dropped off, and he said, "Hey, I'm opening a business. I'm looking for something." He kind of went through the entire community and said, "This is what I'm trying to do." And the community was like, "Hey, if you want to open a business, go to that idiot Matt Smith. He's opened a ton of them, and he loves to do this, and he's probably the guy you should talk to." And so I showed up to my own gym. I'm not kidding when I say there's probably 10 cameras on me. There's drones all over the place. I signed a waiver to walk into my own gym. And I was like, okay, what's happening here? And this Lewis Curtis guy comes over. He's like, hey, he's bald and totally looks different than Grant. And, the rest is history. We ended up opening a business. We spent 90 days together. It was right before COVID. It's like 5 days into COVID. He left for COVID and then ended up coming back to finalize the show during COVID, and we started this business called Wake Up Pueblo. But it was, American Dreams Alive. It was all real, and the majority of it was real. Some of the timelines, there was a few things that was off, but the majority of it was really two guys building a business and showing the world that you can start something from nothing and put the grit in, like we've talked about. And so Grant and myself opened this Wake Up Pueblo, is this building that I'm in right now. It was a marketing company, and then I've transitioned that a lot more into Snooze now at this point. But it's fun. It was a blessing. It was followed around for 90 days. All day, every day on camera. I don't know if they had the camera on. They followed me everywhere I went, but it wasn't really about me. It was all undercover the whole time. So they're with me and my family, and then they're with him, and then they bring us back together, but they would always pretend that they're not with him. They did an incredible job. The Discovery Channel had fake names, fake aliases, fake business cards, fake social media pages. It was crazy, but they did a good job.
Could you tell? I mean, I assume you could tell who it was, right? I mean, he's got a recognizable face, right?
No, not back then. No, and he was bald and he's big now. I mean, it was 5 years ago, I guess, at this point, 4.5 years, 5 years ago. So 4 years ago. But yeah, no, I mean, it was definitely, it's funny, like you say that, because we even did a pitch to a guy named Vern Larson. He's a local guy. And during the pitch, and he was a broker, and he goes, "Did I ever tell you look like Grant Cardone?" He's bald and the cameras are there. And Grant was like, "Man, if I had that guy's money, I wouldn't be sitting here with you, would I?" And Vern was like, "Nah, you're right. There's no way you're Grant Cardone in this office." And there was a couple like weird little things like that, but it was like they just did an incredible job. They really did a good job covering everything up and making sure. And even after the fact, Vern's like, "Son of a gun, I had Grant Cardone in my office, and I didn't even call. I called it out, and I let it fly right by." So anyway,
that's funny. He's a guy with a ton of energy. What was he like to hang with off camera?
He's a guy with a ton of energy. Like he is who you see. I do believe, deep down, Grant's an incredible guy. He's infectious. He's done a lot of crazy things out there, and he still continues to do a lot of crazy things. But he's inspired a lot of people. And I think he runs fast and hard. And probably one of the biggest takeaways, I know we were just talking about it at the beginning of this on the, but he told me one time, he was like, the difference in your problems and my problems, Matt? And I'm like, I don't know the difference. He's like, you got all these businesses, you got all this stuff. And he's like, mine have more zeros behind them and a jet. Other than that, they're the same damn problems. And I'm like, it's true. He's like, just go for more zeros. That was a big thing. And I think the American way is we think so small sometimes. I mean, some don't, but we think like, oh, if I could just get this. But if you think so big, you inspire so many more, you do so much more. But really, we all got the same problems, Yeah. You and I talked about that at the beginning, I think.
Yeah. And the solution, honestly, we are both born salespeople, right? So the solution that both of us have in our heads at all times is more sales.
100%.
It always ends up being good. It doesn't necessarily mean there'll be less problems at all.
Yeah, 100%. And there's always gonna be challenges. Like if it was easy, everybody would do it. And that's the reality. And I think even with franchising, it's all new challenges for us and not a new things that we're doing, but it's one foot in front of the next and burning the boats. I tell everybody that, like, if they could just commit to the burning of the boats, like that's the biggest thing. When anybody tiptoes into entrepreneurship, it ain't gonna work. This shit is not for everybody. But if you go all in, you'll make it work 100%. You bet on yourself.
Okay, so just diving right back in. So we're back down to that Snooze location, right? And so, okay, let's just say that I've signed up with you and I want to open a couple locations, right? And I found a good trade area where you don't have coverage right now. So I want to dive in and buy. What am I looking for? How big are your stores?
Yeah, stores it's a great question. I think, the average store is probably about 3,500 square feet. 35 to 4,500 is ideal for us in a great spot, but we're easy. We're just a box, there's no need for food or, grills or anything like that. It's just a giant box. So any kind of retail prior to, and we've got, like our Albuquerque location, it's 7,000 square feet. Our Ireland location is probably around 9,000 square feet. So we would go in bigger if the rent made sense. But we don't need that big. Sometimes too big is too much in our industry. So, you get confusing when you have too many beds on the floor for a consumer. So yeah, I mean, I think 4 to 4,500 is probably a good sweet spot. 45,000 is a sweet spot for us. We have them. I mean, our Woodland Park location is 1,700 square feet. So it's small, but they're in a great spot. It's a small little community and they're doing very well. So it just depends on, everybody sleeps. So, we want to be in a good buying location for sure, but we don't need a lot. We're pretty low maintenance.
With your emphasis on wellness and experience, do you prefer to go by kind of the traditional approach? I think was to go, if you're a mattress retailer, to go locate by a bunch of furniture sales, right? So big furniture stores, et cetera. Is that your preference, or do you like more like a regional mall or somewhere else where you got more activity that's just casual customer profile? Like,
I think either or. I mean, I think if you're right in the heart of it and there's availability there, sometimes there's lockouts, but if there is availability in the heart, we're going to beat that experience all day long. We'll win 9 out of 10, and we'll help elevate that whole area because we're going to advertise differently. We're going to bring in a different side of clients. So everybody's going to win. I've always said that when we go into a community from a mattress, I'm best friends with everybody in this industry. And it's like, the pie is here. Snooze's goal is to get the pie here. It's not to take from the pie. It's like, how do we change the conversation where everybody wins? So getting inside of that is good for us, or being away where there's nobody at all. You know what I mean? Like one or the two, where there's a lot of communities being built out and there's a lot of houses and stuff, but there's not anything. So, I think one of the high traffic areas, like our one in Fort Collins, is a big outdoor walking area. You got 400 people walking by a day or an hour. I mean, like that's big, because everybody sleeps. We do state fairs. Our franchisees do. We just did the Castle Rock fair of some sort, but we do fairs. We do Airbnbs, hotels, like there is endless. So just getting into the right communities and, a visible spot. So you don't pay all that advertising to get outside of there. So either or.
Yeah. With your franchise support that you're talking about, how you're more in the people business, I think is how you stated it, right? And helping them, encourage them. A lot of the expansion I found that has been a little bit challenging over the last few years is just we have way less space than the retailers want to occupy. And so how are you getting deals done? Right. So in other words, there's only so many of those A+ intersections that work well for a mattress location. How do you make sure that you get it versus, a corporate competitor? How do you make sure you're getting it versus some other, publicly traded company? How's that process?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I think, having the guys on our team like Bruce and AJ are just incredible to find those those deals that are not happening and that are happening before they happen. But landlords like us because we don't take up a lot of, there's no real risk in the build outs. We don't take a lot of parking spots. We don't take a lot of traffic coming in and out of there. And like we said, we only need 3-4 customers a day would be doing very well. So I think, all of that compared to the other guys out there, we're locally owned and operated. We're bringing in the right franchisees that have that income and have that, ability to get there. So I think what we've been blessed is like, if there is another store in retail in general that might be going out, like, we know some of the people have gone bankrupt that have A+ locations. There's some vitamin places, there's some mattress places, there's some stuff like that it's an easy transition where we can go right in there. And if we know it before it's even happening, we, like in Omaha, they're on their 3rd location right now and they're still looking for 4th and 5th if anything pops up, but they'll stay stagnant. I wouldn't say stagnant, but they'll stay until something pops up to get the right location. And then they'll make it work, because what happens in our environment is when you get to 4 or 5 stores in that Omaha area, well, everything is more profitable. Your advertising go down, the cost of goods goes down, the cost of employees goes down. Now, maybe even going into a B+ or an A location versus an A+ is going to be fine because you're branded very well at that area. So yeah, I mean, if that answers it really, we've been blessed, but we've also been patient. I mean, Arizona, we were going to go into 2 years ago and we never found a location. So we're back at it again now, but we just could not. That was at its all-time peak, I think, probably 2 years ago. There was 2% occupancy, and the 2%, like you said, when they were occupied, they were stolen by some big guy before it even got on the market. But that's changed a little bit. So sometimes we just got to be patient too.
Yeah, it's always amazing to me when people keep explaining to me how AI is going to take over site selection. And I just look at it and just say, there it is. We're a long ways out from seeing wherever that is going to happen, right? It's a lot about that aggressiveness of having those boots on the ground.
Yeah, 100%. And relationships. I mean, it, Chris. I mean, I think that's AJ and Bruce's. They've had an incredible relationship with every landlord in the country, and they've done this forever. So that relationship will never be taken by AI. Knowing somebody down the street to say, hey, what's it going to take? How can I help? What do we got to do over here? When's that available? Or can I help that landlord out because that guy's not paying his rent? Is there a win for everybody there? So, and I mean, I got a guy flying in tomorrow that I'm meeting that just wants to do a little bit of a walk up north, and they still want to see it. You got to touch and feel and look at it,
Yeah, hard to replace that element of things, I think, right? And one of the other challenges that I think, keep seeing a lot of the franchise concepts facing is just finding appropriate financing. So I assume with the category of where you are and the higher margin that you're probably an easier underwrite for a lot of these SBA lenders or mortgage brokers.
Yeah, and our cost to entry is so much less than everybody else. I mean, you can get into Snooze for $250 plus real estate or less. In a lot of cases, depending on the square footage, and you're some of these sandwich shops are $1 million, $2 million, $2 million to just build these things out. So we're very inexpensive compared to them. But yeah, from an SBA standpoint, as long as they're qualified, we have like our Myrtle Beach store. They bought it. They bought the building, they rehabbed the building. They were going to rent out half of it. So there is, from a lender standpoint, if there's anybody out there that's, that specializes in this side of it as well too, we're always looking to extend our portfolio outside of just the SBA. We're SBA approved. We do a lot of work with SBA, and then there's some cash funded, but even like UK, that's the craziest part, is not, there's no such thing in Ireland or UK. Is, obviously it's Small Business America, but there's not even a program like that out there. Like, there's just no way to finance, which is so crazy. It's cash only to build these businesses outside of there. So the United States is kind of a cheat code for entrepreneurs to take that risk over 7 or 10 years. But we primarily do SBA, private pay, but we are very inexpensive, and the risk is a lot different as long as you got the right entrepreneur out there. So, if there is anybody looking, or they have anybody out there that's, hey, this would be a good opportunity, this person's got some money, they got some energy, they're good people, send them our way. I think that, and vice versa, we would love if there's any lenders out there that are specializing in the franchising side of it as well too. I think, in certain areas or nationally, we'd love to talk to you.
You started off running at age 19, which is you're way ahead of a lot of us out there in the world. But if you had a chance, to hop in the DeLorean, go back in time and talk to 19-year-old Matt, what are you going to tell him?
Probably would have retired a lot earlier, from the 18-year career path that I took. I think that 18 years was, was such a blessing, because they were such an amazing company. I did good by them. They did good by me. But there was a loyalty that probably got in the way of the long term. And I think I was so loyal to them that I was like, a couple more years, another year. And I didn't bet on myself until I was in my mid 30s, and all in on myself, which the day that I did, everything, made sense. I'll remember telling my banker and my wife at the same time, or 2 different times. And they were both like, whoa, what are you doing? You're leaving your what? And I was in the middle of building this building. I was $1 million over budget, trying to figure all that out. And then I quit my primary income, and everybody was freaking out. But I knew that moment that I had to bet on myself. And, so I think that definitely bet on yourself earlier. You know what I mean? You're going to fall on your face and continue to fall. And it's you win or you learn. And I've learned a lot of lessons, and I'll continue to learn lessons, but think big, run hard, and bet on yourself. I mean, I think that would be the only takeaway. I mean, I did a lot on the side as I learned, but I always say, what if I had left 10 years earlier? Where would I be? What would have happened differently? But I didn't have the maturity. There's a lot of reasons why it didn't work out that way, but bet on yourself as soon as possible, and don't stop till you get there.
One of the things about entrepreneurism that I think is the scariest is the downs, the doldrums, right? That you're not going to make it. So no entrepreneur escapes this. What do you do to get yourself picked back up when you get kicked in the teeth?
An ice bath. I'm telling you, man. No, But no, I mean, I will tell you that, like, even in my last year, even with Gary and some of these new relationships, I do a lot of meditation in the morning. I do things that I used to think, that's hippie stuff. I don't do that stuff. But now I find myself doing my morning, every day I do stuff that's just a morning routine and getting myself ready for the day. Cause you do, like, as an entrepreneur, it's like one day you're like, we're gonna buy a private jet. This is the best thing ever. And the next day you're like, we're going under. It's all gonna fail. We're gonna lose everything. And then the next day it's back. It's what you sign up for. Like, this is it's an up and down, but it's such a blessing to be able to bet on yourself. And as long as you put in the work, it's gonna work. And so definitely, say definitely that.
Love that. As we break, if we are walking into a Snooze store today, what mattress should I buy? If I'm looking for a king size mattress replacement, what's the model? Is there one particular item you'd recommend over the others?
And that's the beautiful thing about Snooze is no. I mean, I think that's the hardest question for me is, like, people are like, well, what did you sleep on? I slept on a Temper Forever. I slept on a Smart Life. Now it's an Airbed. But I think that everybody is uniquely different and there's no one size fits all for anybody. So what you do when you go into a Snooze is we're going to fit you. From here to here, what is this pillow that you need? We're going to measure your body and your pressure points that the Mayo Clinic uses for burn victims. That will tell you where's your pressure points. We'll map you and your significant other. We'll match the beds. We'll match the individual beds together, however we do that. And then we're going to take you on a sleep journey. We're going to find everything that you need inside of there. So there's really no such thing as one size fits all. If anybody says this is the only bed for everybody, it's probably not, because everybody's a little bit different, and we have unique things. And every 8 years we gain weight, we lose weight, maybe car accident, maybe had a baby, whatever life incidences happen as well, changes what kind of a mattress that we may need as well too. So, it's not necessarily the most expensive ones, because there's a Drake bed for $750,000 here in America that you can go buy at Hastings. If you haven't been there, it's incredible. It's crazy, but handmade, all this different things. So yeah, it's not a one size fits all, but our commitment is to get you the right bed, that fits into your body and your budget in every way we can. And then maybe it's something else that you need outside of a mattress.
Matt Smith, founder and CEO of Snooze Sleep. Thank you for joining us today on the Dirt Dog Pod. We appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure. Keep crushing it out there. Appreciate your time, Chris.